is my baby.
I'm Dana Denha.
And I am Melissa Bondi, and this is Adventures in Parenthood, where we take a ride on the roller coaster that we call parenting.
Fitting in amongst peers is an issue that can plague anyone. Recently, Melissa and I had to loosen the reins as our daughters navigate schooling for many years to come. So, it's been a couple months since school started. Melissa, why don't you talk about how Bryn is doing? Is she making friends? Does she already have friends? I mean, I assume she's in a neighborhood school, your neighborhood school, right?
Right. Yeah, no, school's been really great so far. I'm pretty happy. I think she's happy. I'm happy she's happy. So it's been a win-win. We've made a couple of friends. We've had some play dates already. Even she said it out loud that she likes all her classmates and they're all friends. And she said that. And then in one of the conferences with the teacher, even she had said that this is a really good dynamic of kids. And they all seem to really get along. Again, I have nothing to compare that to, right? Because they're kindergartners, right? So,
I just hope,
when does it start?
I've heard the same thing about Keaton's class, that they all get along, that there's like, no one fights or anything. The kids don't fight with each other. There's no like ill will towards anyone. And I was like, I don't know what the dynamic is in kindergarten either, but if they're saying it, it makes me think that maybe in the past there have been kindergarten classes where people didn't get along.
Right. And that's a good point, though. At what point do kids in school does it start where you're butting heads? Is it kindergarten? Is it second grade? Right.
Hoping it was more of like a shift in the way kids interact with each other, and that maybe this new generation, this little generation, is more open to being friendly with everyone and not bullying and stuff. This is my fingers crossed. This is my hope for her generation, right, is that they are more open, because like life in general is like this thing that is constantly evolving, and you have to evolve with the people in it, and people are evolving. And so right. I think like the way I see her interact with other kids is really nice and stuff. But I know for a fact that there are kids in the class that aren't necessarily being bullied or anything, but they don't have as many friends as other kids. And I know because I went on a field trip with them, and I could see the interaction, and I was just watching.
And you're able to witness. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, and I'm not going to name a name because I don't want to make anyone feel weird. But sure. I told Keaton, and she doesn't understand because she's too little, but I was like trying to like push her to just talk to this kid, because I think what happened is he was always going to be in her class, but he started school a week late. And then when he got into the class, everyone had already sort of been friends. And so he felt off. And so now it's like this dynamic where he plays a lot by himself because all the other kids had made fast friendships in that first week of school.
Oh, okay.
So, and I think that can happen. And when I think about myself as a young kid in kindergarten, I was that kid. And maybe that's why I want Keaton to talk to that kid, because I was him. I wasn't her. I wasn't her who talked to everybody and had like friends. I was the person that had no friends.
Right. So you remember, the feeling, you understand, you have empathy, you can understand. I definitely instill like the inclusiveness and making sure we make everyone included, because I do that in my adult life. I like to do that with her and how I'm raising her.
Yeah, well, our next guest actually is all about inclusivity and making everyone feel welcome. Those living with spectrum disorders can feel alienated from others and activities. It can be difficult to find a place to call their own. The Living and Learning Center is on a mission to be the nation's model to equip those with spectrum disorders and challenges in general with the skills to be contributing members of society. Joining me is founder, president, and CEO of the Living and Learning Center, Rachelle Vartanian. Welcome to the show, Rochelle.
Thank you for having me.
I would like to start with your story, Rochelle, because you have a personal story with autism spectrum disorders, but you also, before you get into your very personal story, you went to school for special education and stuff, right?
I did. Yep, I did. I went to school. Actually, I went to Eastern Michigan, and I got a degree in teaching for the emotionally impaired. So it's young adults that have severe behavior issues. And then right out of college, I worked at a lockup center for 10 years, and that was really my passion. And I went back to school, and I got a master's degree in educational psychology with a concentration in development of personality. And I did that because I really wanted to understand why my students were making the choices they were making. And then I went back to school one more time when my son was diagnosed. So when my son was diagnosed with autism, I was now working at a high school, North Farmington High School, and I was working with the same population, though, kids that had severe behavior issues. And what they started doing is they started putting the young adults that have Asperger's syndrome in the classroom too, because they didn't know where to put them. And it was really inappropriate because, most of the people have Asperger's, which is now everything's autism, have severe anxiety, and they're walking targets to be bullied. So now they're in this class with people that have behavior issues. And what happened was I kept thinking, oh my God, this is my son's future. So I went back to school again and got a second master's in autism so I could advocate for him.
How old was he when he was diagnosed?
I want to say he was about 3.
Okay, so young, very young.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
I always find it interesting that, you had this background that sort of led you to be the mother that you are to your son. Do you know what I mean? Like, you had the schooling and stuff that was helpful for you to have a son with a spectrum disorder. And I just find that interesting how that sort of works itself out sometimes. But I mean, really, it was such a positive thing for you, because now you are advocating for all kinds of people with autism and spectrum disorders. Talk about how, you went from teaching in that high school, and then, you have your own nonprofit, and why you wanted the Living and Learning Center to be a place for people with autism.
Right. Well, I got to be honest, when they first told me that diagnosis, I never heard of the word. I had no idea what Asperger's was. So I had a degree in special education, but I knew nothing about this. So that's why I went back to school. And why I did it was because the programs I could find for my son were far away, and there were very few of them. And because I was working at the high school, I knew that these young adults that did get done with school, they were doing nothing with their lives after they got done. There was nothing out there, and parents were telling me it was like they fell off a cliff. So I decided after I got the degree, I would start a social skill program. So it's, to help them have friendships and understand sarcasm, innuendos. And so every Sunday I rented a room out of the Farmington Public Library. And at 1:00, I did social skill programs with, young kids, and I didn't charge families. And it was a good way for me to learn too. And I did it for about almost 2 years. And then I just, I kept praying and thinking, what is going to happen? I don't have a strong family support. So I thought if I died, I was going to be homeless. So I just took a huge leap of faith, and I quit my job that I'd been teaching at that point 20 years. I had great benefits, and I was at the top of my pay scale. And I sold my home. We lived in a home that we had built for us. And I was divorced at this time. And so I sold it, and I moved us into a home that I didn't allow anyone to come to because I was so embarrassed we lived there. But what ended up happening was I was able to take the money that I made on the house and keep my kids in private school. My son, Anthony, who has autism, went to a school for people that had special needs. And I didn't want to rock that. And I opened up in downtown Northville a little storefront and called Living and Learning. And I just started with one program. I wanted a Friday night hangout, for them to come to and feel proud to go there. And just every Friday they got a place to go. And I did that because when I was working with my students on Mondays, we would talk about what you did over the weekend. And it was heartbreaking. They would make up stuff. And it was just so obvious that they were making it up because, that population, people that are I hate saying the word higher functioning, but don't need as much as support as someone else. They're self-aware. They understand, like, my brothers are going to parties. My next door neighbors who I used to kind of hang with, they're going on dates, and I'm not invited anywhere.
And so that's where, like, the sort of lying about what they were doing came into play.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So I had this beautiful house that I used to have, and now I've moved into a small house. And so I had all this furniture. So I, decorated it beautifully and I didn't want it to be in a basement of a YMCA or something. I wanted it to be a place where they felt really proud to go. So I think the first Friday night we had 4 people. And then I added a Saturday night, and then I started talking to them about what their special interest was. And it was, Dungeons and Dragons and Comic-Con Club, bird watching. And I just started adding programs based on that. And then we just kept growing. And then what happened is I realized that none of them were working. And my whole goal, and I didn't know how I was going to get there, was independent living. And so I thought, I've got to help them start having jobs. So then I went into that world and started job coaching and placing them in jobs. And now we have an IT academy. So for people that are interested in cybersecurity and they get certificates and jobs in cybersecurity, we have that little storefront that I started in. We moved out of it and we turned it into an artisan market. So 50% of the products are made by people with special needs, and they get the same percentage as anyone that has products there. We bring schools in, we have people employed there that have special needs. And we moved into, we had this God moment, and we moved into a beautiful campus that we're on 14 acres.
So Rochelle, I want to ask to go back to what you just said regarding the like the cybersecurity type classes. Is that a niche field that people find that have, that are clients of yours? Do they gravitate toward that? Like, how did that come about? That's very interesting.
Yeah, God, I don't know how else to say it. When we were trying to get this property that we're on, I went everywhere I could, every church and Rotary Club and Lions Club. And I just told people my story and what I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at the end of one these presentations, this man came up to me and said, I have a child with special needs and I live in Northville, but I used to I was an executive at Cisco Networking. And it's not my wheelhouse. So like, I didn't even know what Cisco was. And he was explaining to me that they had this program there that was very aggressive, but in the 6 months, people would get a certificate in cybersecurity. And he was saying there's so many jobs out there for this. They can't find enough people.
Oh.
So
Okay.
we took the curriculum and stretched it to 10 months. It was just slower pace, same curriculum. I rented a room out of Madonna University because I wanted them to be on a campus. And we put 2 amazing teachers in there. And that was our first cohort. And then we're on our 3rd right now. Now we've partnered with Ford and they house that program. But yes, I don't want to say everyone with autism loves computers. That's not true. But there are a group of people that love computers and are interested in this. And so I guess it is a niche.
But there really is a huge need for cybersecurity in the job market in general. So it's like a great career path for them to go into because there will be jobs for them. There's going to be jobs for cybersecurity.
I would not be interested in it. I don't understand it. But yes, for some people it would be.
Yeah, for sure. You say on your website, you want to be the model for other places in the nation. Why are there not places like this? You needed to create this place. And I'm sure like even if we went around Michigan, we wouldn't find many places like the Living and Learning Center. So why do we need these places? And why do we, people need to come to you and sort of grow this idea?
Yeah, I had no choice but to start it because there was nothing out there. I would have much rather went to somewhere and put my son in programs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you put a lot on the line for this. You put a lot on the line.
Thank God it worked.
Yeah.
And the nation's model, I want to help other organizations, and people are coming to us and meeting with us all the time from all over the US that want to do something similar. And I'll meet with anyone to help them do this because this is an epidemic. If you don't know if someone has autism right now, you will. And what's going to happen? There are some programs for when they're younger, but nothing exists for when they're older. And the things that do exist are for people that need the most support. And I'm all about that, but there's a group of people that are being ignored here.
I can honestly say I don't know of a resource center or a place, especially and Dana and I have interviewed so many organizations that deal with children, kids, with infants. You
We've
don't
even
hear.
we've even talked with autism organizations that
And-
don't have a place
Yeah.
for people
it
to
usually
go.
stops at
No.
1986. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely an age gap. You can tell that. And when you say, they graduate or they're done or they've moved on from school, and then what?
There's nothing.
Then
There's nothing.
yeah, I'm understanding now this need.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing. And, you have autism for life. It doesn't stop when you're 18.
Right.
And every parent I know is thinking the same thing. What will happen to my child when I die? So that's my goal. When we moved into this property that we're on, it felt like the Holy Grail to me because across the street were apartments. And then north of us were more apartments and condos. And I thought, oh my gosh, I could help people live there. And we're home base and everything's walkable here. Most of my people don't drive, and downtown Northville's right there. So they're not isolated.
But do you still get clients from all over Metro Detroit? And you said nationwide, but are they coming?
Yeah, we had a family coming from India.
Okay.
Yeah, we met with them. I Zoomed with them, and then we created a program for them. And the mother and the son, Pava, were here for about 3 months. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have forward thinking. I mean, if you're talking about housing and, your location, you're definitely, you've got the bigger picture, and I can tell that, I can hear that in your voice, and what you're describing sounds like an amazing, I'm calling it a resource center, but what do you call it? And when describing it, the first, when you're first talking to someone, what do you call it?
A center, and
Okay.
I don't know if that's the right word or not, but we call it a center. We're on a campus, on our property, and I welcome anyone that's listening to this to come and see it. Our gates are open every day till 9 p.m. and we want people walking the campus. It's so beautiful. We have alpacas, we have chicken, we have bunnies,
Okay.
we have putt-putt, we have lavender. I mean, it's just beautiful. We just started renting the property out for events. And the goal is that my people will work those events one day, and it's just more jobs for them.
Okay.
9 people on our payroll right now with special needs, and get a paycheck, and they come in the morning and, feed the animals and let them out. Someone comes in the evening, does the same thing, puts them back in. We have people at Mod Market that are on our payroll. We have at our IT Academy, the teacher assistant has autism. So my goal is next year to double that. But on top of that, we've placed probably 50 people in jobs all around the community. So we've got them there, and then we transition there, and they've been there now.
And you said your payroll staff, but you also have volunteers. Are those friends? Are those random former teachers? Who are the volunteers?
It's everyone. There's people here that are volunteering that are senior citizens, and then there's people here that are young kids volunteering. So it's all ages and all walks of life.
You mentioned about, helping them get a job and then finding housing. Do you find a lot of the people that come into the Living and Learning Center actually can someday live on their own in an apartment or a house without their
Some can, some will always need assistance. And what we did is we partnered with another nonprofit about a year ago, and the name of that nonprofit is Community Opportunity Center, and they're located in Wayne County, and they have 21 homes in Westland, Livonia, Garden City, and Plymouth. And it's more for your people that need more support. Then the second thing they do is, if you have an apartment, if you're higher functioning, and again, forgive me I'm just trying to describe.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I
know. Yeah, I have a hard time too.
And
right terminology.
Politically correct. So
right. That's
let's just give each other grace. And but they also help people that are more independent. If you have your own apartment or condo, they go in there, and it's individualized. What you need, whether you need someone to come in once a day to drive you somewhere, or once a month just to help you pay your bills. And so I thought, oh my gosh, this will be the first time I won't have to reinvent the wheel. They've been doing it for 50 years. And so that's, this goal will get closer because of this now.
Well,
Aw.
right now we're going to take a really short break. We'll be back in exactly 60 seconds with more from the Living and Learning Center.
Sometimes I still feel so alone.
We're back with Rochelle. Rochelle, you were just talking about people, having these really big goals. You have the big goals for people living with spectrum disorders, which I think is so amazing, because if there aren't people like you out there advocating for these people, then they're going to be living that same life that they've always lived, where they don't get, to have their social circle and like have a job and maybe live on their own someday. So I think everything that you're doing is like really just this bright light for people with spectrum disorders. But you mentioned that it's for anyone with challenges. So is there real criteria to be someone that's involved at the center, or, you have to fill out a form? Can you explain that a little?
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you said that. When we first opened, we worked with people with autism, and then we stretched it and we're like, oh, autism and related challenges. And then it grew. And now really we work with any challenge. I mean, you might just have anxiety or, or Down syndrome, or, so we work with everyone. And if you want to be a part of it, you do an intake. So you just call the center and say, I'm a new person, I'd like to be a part of this. And the intake is free. And we just meet with you and your parent and I just don't want to give a list of, this is everything we have. I want it to, this is what would be perfect for you. Yeah. And that's how we do it.
Do you have an age, the preferred age if kids were interested, or do you like to focus on teens and adults?
I definitely like to focus on teen and adults, because I feel like that's the most vulnerable population, because there's nothing out there. But I do have 2 programs for upper elementary.
Okay.
And we just started working with senior citizens that have special needs, which is like incredible.
You mentioned, obviously having these independent living skills, and you actually have programs centered on that. Can you talk about these programs and why I think these programs have to be really beneficial to people living with spectrum disorder, specifically to, know how to cook, bake, work, things like that?
Yeah. So we have, cooking programs, and they're online, which was nice. You can be in your own home cooking. We have, as far as programs to help them find jobs. And we have a program, it's one of our best programs. It's called a vocational program. And it would be more for your people that didn't get a diploma. They got a certificate of completion, and maybe they'll always need a little bit of assistance at a job. So gosh, I want to say we have about 42 clients, and we've got 30 different partners in the community with businesses. So they get here at 9 a.m. and it's 1 direct care worker and 3 individuals, and they'll go to a job site, and then they all come back here for lunch. And then in the afternoon, they go to a different job site. And some of them will stay and get employed there. And some of them will just always be with us because that's what they need.
Do you find that, this is for, you have adults and older, senior citizens.
Yeah.
Do you find now that a lot of these adults and or senior citizens have a spectrum disorder and they were undiagnosed?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah. Some, that's interesting. I do get a lot of people that will say, I was just diagnosed 3 months ago, and they're maybe in their 40s or 30s. And Obviously they have to be pretty high functioning if it wasn't diagnosed and they were able to go that far. But you know what else is interesting? Sometimes I'm talking to a young adult and I'm looking at the parent thinking, oh no, you have autism too.
And
And
we don't know because
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
and I shouldn't say, oh no, but I mean, I want to so bad say,
Yeah.
you.
it is sort of that weird line you have to walk because you don't
Yeah.
want to make anyone feel uncomfortable either. But it
Right.
also is like, I think for people that are undiagnosed that are older, I think it has to be this eye-opening situation where you're like, this is why my life is like
This
this.
is why. Yeah, and I think most people, when that happens, they do feel like, oh my gosh, thank you. Now I understand, you know. But I have had a couple that it was very upsetting to them as well.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, do you run into folks who they already know, like they know, like, yep, I knew I had that, or I knew I'm like this, or I already knew, it wasn't official. Like, do you find that you run into adults who may say that? Because I feel like that would be something that could.
Yeah, I just met someone, and I'm not gonna say his name, and that's what he said to me. He said, I always kind of suspected.
Mhm.
And he went and got tested. And I mean, he was an executive, does very well, very good looking, has a fiance. But I think it did help him. And then because he's older, he was able to find, and he came to us because there was nothing out there. Isn't that funny? He was saying the same thing, that I was looking for something and I couldn't find anything. So
Rochelle, how do you market the living and learning? How do people find out? I mean, like, I saw it on Facebook. Obviously, social media is amazing, but how do you market?
yeah, you know what? That's a good question. I mean, a lot of it's word of mouth, but the marketing piece, I would say, the social, Facebook and everything else. We tell the schools, we work with them,
Okay.
work with different agencies and they spread the word, different doctors' offices. I'm sure I could do a better job with marketing.
No, that's a big job in itself. It's huge.
Before we go, because we are running out of time, why don't you tell people why they should look up the Living and Learning Center, take advantage of it, donate, volunteer, whatever you need help with.
Oh, thank you. Well, the first thing I'd like to say is if you have a special need or you have a loved one that does, please reach out to us. If we aren't a good fit, we will help you find a place that is. And if we don't offer something that you need, we could create it together. And we've done a lot of that. As far as donations, yes. I mean, we always need help. A lot of people want to help with like the animals and everything, and that's wonderful. We want that help, but really we need help with the inside piece. So please go on our website or call us. If you want a personal tour, I would love to give you one. And then the last thing is just come out and walk the property. It's so beautiful. We want to share this with everyone.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Rochelle.
Thank you. For having me.
If you have an idea for a parenting show topic or guest, talk to us on Twitter and Facebook at #CTN Ann Arbor.
And for more on programming and services at CTN, you can visit us at a2gov.org/CTN and visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to watch a full lineup. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for joining us on this adventure in parenthood.